All right, everybody. Well, welcome to Mastermind Monday. I'm Tom Miller with my amazing teammate, Lauren Waters. How are you tonight, Lauren?
Doing well. Happy to be here.
Yeah,
Can't wait to talk about the book.
I know it's like so exciting this day. And it's cool. I get to use my high school principal's office and we got our core values over to show. I'm like, oh, this is a great opportunity because we'll talk a lot about this tonight. So if you're with us and you're able to chat in the box, let us know who you are, where you're joining us from. There might be more in the room with you. We just sold our 200th and something book the other day, Lawrence. We got a bunch of folks. This is great. And so whether you actually have your book in hand yet, or it's on the way, or you want to get it, it's on Amazon. Highly recommend that you grab that. Either way, just the conversations that we're going to have and the great leaders that are going to pour into us over these next 5 weeks is going to be invaluable to you. But having a way to track it and um, show your progress is going to be critical. If we've never met before, I'm Tom, and I am a former exceptional children's teacher turned school leader, a charter school principal. I was part of the state authorizing team in North Carolina. And then for the last 10 years, I've owned what I believe is the most successful leadership consulting company for charter schools, Leaders Building Leaders. And it's only successful because we have amazing uh, members of our team like Lauren, who also was a teacher and a principal, and she's a great human. So what do you think, Lauren? Do you think we're the best?
Maybe a little biased, but I think we're doing a pretty good job.
That's fine. Well, of course, but we want to be best. And that's what this is all about, right? It's high performance. Everything that we want to do is about high performance. So if we're going to lead a school and run a school, we want it to be a high performing school, right? But to do that, we might not be there yet, but we always want to hold the image of what high performance looks like. And we'll talk more about that. But this book, everybody, this book was designed to be a strategic planning tool, a strategic thinking partner. That's why Lauren made me do this. She forced me to do it. There are notes on the side. Like if you see books, if you've gotten a book from me, but you know that I write like crazy, and I've already started to write in this one, but there's notes inside. It's a thinking partner. You can talk to the book. The book's going to talk back to you. Right, because that's where the great thoughts are really going to come in. So don't try to write down everything we say or what someone else says. It's more important is what comes through you is what you want to jot down in notes of your books, right? So this is a literal blueprint for success. It's born out this book, right, Lauren? It was born out of a necessity over the last 3 years. I have been the interim head of school of 9 charter schools in North Carolina and now in Florida. And Lauren was my virtual assistant director, assistant principal, assistant executive director. And then we had another boots on the ground, but 9 schools. And so, during those 9, we needed a way to really just measure where that school was. We didn't know anything about it. So we've created tools that will. You just went away for a second, Lauren. We've created tools that will help measure a school's current reality, and that was the whole goal here. I've got like nine like thousand views up here. Let me get this other one up. And so when we started to work on this book, I was like, okay, now we've got this great assessment tool. We've got, a tool to show us what are the most important aspects of every single area of your school's operations. Because we need to know the current reality. And then we had to have a conversation with the team. Well, what would success look like in each of these areas? And this is where this whole conversation started. So we need a way to measure current reality. And then from there, right, with this kind of, hey, well, what would high performance look like in the area of mission, vision, education plan, parent engagement, organizational health, right? School culture, operations, facilities, and finances. Like we needed to have an understanding of ourselves, what success looks like. But here's one of the things we learned the hard way, right, Lauren, is that our vision of success wasn't the same vision of success for that school. So this is why it's critically important. It's critically important that you understand that you're operating at a different level of awareness from the people on your team. And so Lauren and I and our team, we were operating at a much higher level of awareness because we had just had a lot more experience. I didn't know this as a leader, and I messed up multiple times by saying, "Oh no, we're going to be here," and they're like, "Oh, that's really insulting. You just really called us bad." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm not calling you bad. I'm saying, but I think we could get better, right? And here's what better could look like, or what do you think better will look like, right?" So we needed a measuring tool. Then we started to say, okay, what would success look like? But a lot of these schools were a little stuck. They weren't necessarily sure, because they had an interim leader, and being stuck really stinks. Everybody, like, raise your hand if you like being stuck. I don't. It's just terrible. So they were, kind of stuck in their thinking, and Lauren, we were like, well, we don't have to know all the steps. We just know what's the next step, right? I heard you say you want to, right? You want to improve your report card score, or you want to hire better people, or you want to, strengthen your enrollment for next year, whatever it may be. What do you think's the next step? Because to be honest, everybody, that's the right answer. Because when you take that step, then you'll know it's going to, take you closer to your vision or farther away from your vision. And Lauren and I, we call this a skinny strategic plan. We don't like big, lumpy 18-page strategic plans because they just get, put in a filing cabinet. We like a skinny strategic plan. What would success look like the next 30, 60 to 90 days, right? We don't need to think about everything. Which, like, what's just going to get us forward, right? So if you're following along here, right, we came in, we measured what the current reality was. We identified where they had some areas of growth. We asked them what would growth look like when it was, maybe at its best level, or maybe just 90 days from now. And then we helped them start to think about action steps. Now, there's this great model that Lauren and I follow. It's called good, better, and best, right? Best would be that perfect score. A better would be a little bit better, right? Just a little bit. And good would be, we tried today. We made effort today. And I always say this with my exercise, right? Best is 30 minutes. Better is, 15 minutes. Good is I got up and I actually walked to the gym, and that's maybe all I could do today. So it's always so important to have this good, better, best model in play, because if you don't, you're going to be like beating yourself up every day. And that's the hardest part about growth, is that we're not trying to get from a where our current score is now to a perfect score tomorrow. It's not going to happen. But if we think that way, we can certainly get ourselves into more of a stuck feeling, or a deflated feeling, right, Lauren? Oh, we can hear your head
Yeah.
nod. You gotta say
Sorry. Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
You're in the screen, right? So now, again, knowing that no one begins at the level of mastery, like, you have to understand, as you're going through this process with us, and as you're reading through the book, you want to just continue to create that image of what perfection might look like at your school, right? And one way that we do that is we take school leaders to high performing schools in North Carolina, and we'll soon do it in Florida, but you could do it wherever you are, because you may not know what a fully enrolled school looks like, or an A academic school looks like, or a school with a high performing car line, right? I mean, if everybody's complaining about your car line, you could go see other schools and see, like, how are you doing pickup? So we take leaders to other schools so they can expand their vision and see better practices in play. And that's a big part of what this book is based upon. It's over 10 years of school leader interviews, of school visits, of walking the hallways. It's, talking to teachers. It's being entangled in the challenges of organizations. It's being the actual practitioner carrying out all of these processes. So because we know that no one starts at mastery, and we all have to start from where we are planted right now, we're going to call that our departure point, everybody. Our departure point is where we are growing right now. It takes a growth mindset, okay, to be able to lead yourself and to lead people through an improvement process. So you have to be gentle on yourself, because some days are going to stink, okay? But it's okay, because all you're trying to do is just get to the next step. Because what we say, if you can get 1% better in each of these categories each week for a whole year, even if you took 2 weeks off, you're going to be 50% better in every single part of your wheel. I mean, imagine that. Imagine if each of your wheels grew at a 50% capacity. I mean, some of them might be, you might have a perfect score. I don't know what your scores are right now. Even if I'm half wrong, you're going to be 25% better. And I don't know a human being who wouldn't take 25% return on investment per year. I'd like to make 25% more money every year. That'd be awesome, right? I'd like to have 25% more vacation days and more fun, all those great things. So it's important that you understand that if you're a principal on this call, a coach on this call, if you've had experiences, like, you're operating a higher level of awareness, but you're going to have to be, bringing your team with you to make this happen, because you cannot do it alone. So that's why I said, if you're going through this book study alone, okay, maybe the first time, but you have to bring them along, right? You have to. I really think the best way to do this, Lauren, we were talking about this, this morning, is maybe, participate in the live call on that Monday night, or at least listen to the replay by, Tuesday afternoon. And then you're meeting with your team late Tuesday or Wednesday to unpack, right? Look at your scores and start to put a plan in play. We'll talk about more of that later. But that was one of the things. It's like, that's what we're going to do with our team. We're going to be looking at our scores, taking those next steps, right?
Yeah, and I'll just add, Tom, that I think that's one of the biggest values of this book, is that it's full of strategies that your team can take and implement right away. Looking at indicator 1, when I was rereading the chapter, and we talked about this morning, that mission and vision exercise. I mean, we've done that so many times with schools, and it's a resource that we constantly pull, and that's why it made it in the book. So it's full of all of our best resources that we have actually done and implemented with organizations over the years. And I just think that's a really big value that this book gives, things that you can take and implement right away.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because everything in the book is something we've done. Some things we've done really well, and some things not so much. And we've just tweaked them and continue to really, really grow them. So I was just looking at the people that we got Adam, who we just saw at the Fresh Take Conference the other day. Hey, Adam, and Amy Moore, and Claire. Claire, I was just actually thinking about you. I may need to hire you as a coach for somebody, if that's only if Jennifer lets me, but she might be on the call. I see Monica's here and Rachel's here, so I love it. Okay, so yeah, so this book is a big giant strategic plan in itself. You have to handpick what you're going to use. So let's talk about the wheel of success here, right? So this wheel, this is my printed out version. See, I've already scored my indicator 1 here, but you've got a wheel in your book. Okay, so there's a whole wheel at the very end, and I think for you guys, you told me it's page 331. I've got an author's version of the book. It's a different page, but that's where you can do like your end scoring. All right, but I want to talk about like where the wheel came from. The wheel of success, originally, I saw it from Zig Ziglar. Zig Ziglar was a motivational speaker, and Zig had this wheel, all right, and the spokes of the wheel were like all the most important aspects of your life, family, community, relationships, marriage, children, finances, professional. Like, it just had all these pieces. And Zig was saying, hey, rank yourself and then do your score and see how well your wheel rolls, right? So I've always had this wheel, which is really funny. The first teammate I had in the business was Jeff Gorski, and he said, I think I found the original wheel of success that we created back in 2015. So I was like, oh, you got to keep that. It might be a something you could sell on eBay one day, Jeff, right? But Zig's was called the wheel of life, right? It was just to help you create a visual and a viewpoint for your life. And then when I was first starting this company, I had this process called the 6 steps to transformation. And the first step in this is to always, you got to change your thinking. You got to change your thinking. You got to set your goals, find a coach and a mentor, get a clear vision, take action, fail forward, like rinse and repeat, right? Rinse and repeat, rinse. That's all I've ever done. I was like, oh, I've always had this framework, right? So when I took my first wheel of life with Zig, I was like, oh, this is where I'm really, really low. And I was like, well, I need to find mentors in these areas. So I had some people that mentored me through books like Dave Ramsey, and some mentored me in life, like Mark Tracy. He's been a lifelong friend, and he's a great dad. And I was like, and he's always so calm. I was like, I'm just gonna watch this guy. I'm gonna ask him. He doesn't know, but so I started to kind of use this wheel of success, process over a decade ago through Zig Ziglar's, right? So it would show you like, hey, I was flat in a couple areas. So I've just continued that process. So on I think it's page 9 of your book, Lauren, right? So the whole framework and the foundation of this book, everybody, is my dissertation. It's the characteristics of effective schools. I know you've all read it. It's not the page turner that this one is, but it's not bad. But so I had this, Lauren and I had this characteristics of effective schools foundational work that I've been doing for 10 years and all this research. And then we had this wheel of success, and we had this measurement tool. And I was like, oh gosh, how do we marry everything together? And we started playing around with it. And then Lauren came up with the original wheel, which a lot of you guys had, probably seen. Some of you used a couple of years ago. We, brought it to some, consortiums, and you guys practiced it. And it didn't have the spokes like it has now. It had like even spokes, right? But it was, based upon just these characteristics of effective schools. And I was like, well, we can't just have, sustained mission and like, personalized education plan. It's like, well, operations is really important. And we don't have the board, like Lauren, we don't have the board in our 5 characteristics. I mean, tell me the board's really important. We do have the parent piece, but we don't have finances. I mean, if we got a terrible board and no money, like we're just sunk, right? We wouldn't even have a wheel. So that's how. And I think we probably got to 10 because we had to have a balance, right? We probably had like an uneven wheel, and we probably couldn't figure out how to make the wheel into nine pieces of pie. We had to do 10, right? So that's a little bit about how the wheel came about. So now, we've got that original 5 characteristics of effective schools, which came from my initial site visits to Mountain Community School and Greensboro Academy and the Franklin Academy and Community School of Davidson and Maureen Joy Charter. Those were the 5 schools that said yes in my dissertation. Look, and so that's where all this started. So everything that you're going through in this book, in this process, is what I did, right? Is what I did starting in 2009. I went and I saw better schools. I got and expanded the vision of what success would look like. I identified what made them successful. I did research around what made not just them successful, but the most successful schools through my effective schools framework, right? And each of this 10 indicators has that work inside it, right? Has that work inside it. It made me raise my hand, Lauren. Did you see that in the Zoom thing? It was so, and then it just said you have to put your hand down. It was really funny, everybody. This is this is right. So and in each indicator, there are substandards, Lauren, or sub indicators. I think we need to get a common language for what these are. I keep calling them substandards. What would you call these? Each like little spoke in the wheel.
Sub indicators.
Okay, we're going to call them sub indicators then, because that's what Lauren said to do. So each of these sub indicators is its own section, right? So what you're ultimately doing is like, okay, I want to be able to say with certainty, to my best level of awareness right now, that is working. And that's how you get to actually color it in, right? So what Lauren and I found is like at these schools that I was this interim leader at, is that they were good people and they had, good ideas and they did the best that they possibly could, but they spend so much time trying to put out fires and handle crises, and they had turnover, right? It was hard for them to think forward. And write this down, everybody. A leader's job is to see more before. You've always got to be able to see forward. You've got to be telescopic in the future, but microscopic on the now. And that's what this book's going to help you do. It's going to help you see what success is going to look like. It's going to allow you to measure where you are right now. And then it's going to help you build an action step to close that gap. And here's what you're going to find, everybody. The closer you get to that arrival point, the quicker you're going to realize, oh, we're even better than that. So you're probably going to just create a bigger goal, right? Because you're going to be like, you're going to have so much momentum. You're just going to keep expanding that wheel, and it's going to keep growing. And then what you'll find is, because I expanded this one part of my wheel, the other sides of the wheel are now also becoming balanced, right? That's what we see, right, Lauren? Like you just start to see momentum and growth, and that wheel starts to spin where it used to like chug and hit, right? Like be like a lumpy kind of like a Play-Doh or like a potato, right? You try to throw like a potato and it's all like rolling sideways. So that's what you're gonna be able to do. So everything starts with vision, right? So I've already talked about how we help expand vision. We take leaders to schools. I go to other schools. Lauren and I are so lucky. Like we spend 3 days a week in the inner circle with other leaders, learning about their challenges or how they're meeting challenges or great things that they're doing. Then 4 times a year or so, we get to go visit a high performing school for our celebrations through our teacher leader academy and our school leader consortiums, right? It's just every time we do it, it raises awareness. We're always like, oh God, look at this great idea that this leader had. How do we capture that, right? All that's in the book too. Everything that we've seen at other places and we think will work effectively that we've done ourselves is inside that, book. And so the reason why it's important that you get outside of your school and also bring people inside your school so they can help is because you can't always see the picture when you're standing in the frame. You may just think, oh, we're all fine, right? But because you're standing in it, like the teacher that you're doing an observation on, and you're like watching, you're like, how do they not see those 2 or 3 kids in the corner, or this guy's reading an English book and this is math class? Like, how do they not see it? It's because they're standing in the frame. They don't see the whole picture. So it's important. This book's going to help you take a step back and take a look at the whole, the whole piece, right? The whole piece. All right. So let's get started here. We talked about the wheel with Zig. We talked about my transformation process, the origin story, expanded vision. We talked a little bit about the inner circle. And, Lauren, I started to do some math here, and, math isn't my strength, but like over 10 years, I think we've got 10,000 hours in this book in terms of books that we've read, our time in schools, right? Content we've listened to, inner circle meetings, because we started the inner circle back in 2020 during COVID. So we're in our 4th year now. Like, I think we're easily on 10,000 hours. And that's what Malcolm Gladwell said starts to create that expertise of that time, right? But there's 2 really dangerous words in leadership, Lauren, that we never, ever want to say. Do you know what they are? Or do I have to type them to you?
Type them to me.
All right. I'll just say it anyway. There's 2 dangerous words every day I have to say. Don't say, I know, right? They're super dangerous words. You guys probably know 90% of the stuff in this book, right? The question that you have to ask her is, how well do I do it? How well do we do it as a team? Right? We all know what best practices are and look like. I mean, Robert Marzano shoved them down our throat, right? Classroom instruction that works, schools that work, parent conversations that work, like everything that works. But it only works if what, Lauren?
How well you do it.
If you work it, that's right, right? So we're going to be planning our work and working our plan. Absolutely. Absolutely. So this vision is your mental model of perfection. So this is what, like, in your opinion, in your best level of awareness right now, what high performance would look like. This is the first component of this book. It's going to help you create and expand what that vision is. Now, it's going to be important because we're going to be talking about the chapter on the vision in a minute here, but it's important that you take the time to write out what success looks like. And one of the activities in the book, right, Lauren, is to write out for 10 consecutive days what success would look like. And start blank every day, everybody, I know. But start blank. We might kill a tree, but it's okay. You can get a journal. And by starting blank every day and actually physically writing out by day 10, you're going to be crystal clear on what you believe a clear and sustained mission, right, and vision is, and what quality work of the student looks like, and what culture of high performance looks like, because you're taking the time to really think through all of those pieces. And so with clear vision, right now, and I have a measure, so you've all should have taken the time to do your assessment somewhere. So maybe you took the electronic version of it. If you did, right, I encourage you to print it out. And so when I say the electronic version, that's our type form assessment. So you type, so it just asks you a question, and then at the end it emailed it to you. So if you haven't done that, you can go to 10indicators.com anytime, and there's a button, and you can go through the assessment process there, or on the book study page, right? And it doesn't cost you anything to do it. Just take the assessment. It takes less than 10 minutes. Get through it, everybody, because what we find is a lot of people, they stop somewhere in the middle, or that they get distracted and they don't go back. So, go through it. Now, if you already took it, but you're not sure of the results, you can email us and we can track it down and send it back to you. But I actually just did an email search and I found mine. And then you can print it out. And I'm going to keep this in my book as my bookmark, okay? Because at the end of every chapter, I'm going to look at what I thought at the beginning of when I read the book, and now, and see if I still agree. Okay. So take your assessment. That's going to help you have your current reality. You can also use your book to take the assessment. And some of you may have a paper version of the assessment. It all works. Okay. It doesn't matter. But the most important thing is you want to get a current reality of your school. And I would honestly have as many people on your team take the assessment. So this could be anybody from your non-instructional team, your admin team that has a pretty good understanding of all those pieces. You could even have a board member probably take it, and they don't have to answer every question in it, right? So you just need to take that into consideration when you're creating your team wheel. But when you do that, it's going to give you a really good idea of how everybody sees your current reality, school, right? So I'm casting vision for success in the future, and this can be done individually, and it can be done as a team. The answer is, should I do both? Yes, you should do both. You should schedule time for yourself to think through, and schedule time as a team to talk through what vision looks like. So then you can create this common vision of success. Everybody's got the assessment. We take the assessment. So now we've got our arrival point, our vision, and we've got our departure point, which is our current reality of the situation. And if you've ever been to, if you use a map, right, like a GPS on your phone, I can say that I want to go to, Panama City, right? But it's going to ask me, where are you now? And I can choose my current destination, right? And then it creates me a plan. But it's really, really important. I got to have both points. I got to have the end point, and I got to have the starting point to be able to do this correctly. And remember, we don't start at mastery, okay? So it's okay. You just start from where you're exactly planted. And our goal is just to get 1% better every single week, okay? So as you've got those 2 points, you're reading through the chapter, you're going to do the exercises. Don't skip the exercises. Don't do it. Do them. Take the time. We're going to make sure you do a couple tonight, because we're going to go through a couple pages here. Take the time to do the exercises, okay? And make sure you're writing down the notes. And at the end of every chapter, there's an ACT, apply, change, teach. Now, Lauren, why is it important? I know you just love when I put you on the spot. Why is it important that we actually like reflect upon what we learned and what we tried or what we did? What is that? What is that to?
I think it holds yourself accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I can go back and look and say, oh, I never did that. Right. And it also it helps me evaluate that whole process. And that's really what's going to close the gap is evaluative experience, reflective experience. This is what we ask teachers to do, right? You should be a reflective practitioner in the process. Okay. And this is the whole purpose of the ACT, the apply, the change, and the teach. You're going to want to close every chapter, every indicator with an action step. And that's what I'm encouraging you to get with your team within 48 hours and talk through these action steps so you can get moving. Because if content were king, if the most important thing for you were to just read this book, everybody would be rich, thin, right, and extremely happy because then that's all they would do. And a library book wouldn't, or a library card wouldn't be free. Google wouldn't be free, right? It's the actual application is going to make a difference. Okay, so if you don't take the time to do it, that's going to be hard to improve for sure. And so as you're working to close your gap and you've got your vision for success and your current reality, here's just a little warning, everybody. Don't get too caught up in the logic. Lauren's going to kill me here. Don't get too caught up in the logic behind your arrival point, your vision of success, your vision of high performance. Because it's easy. And I remember working with a school that had a low performing grade every single year of its existence, a D or an F. And it was serving a population that really needed love and they needed high expectations and high accountability. And so when we went through the process in indicator 2, where we're going through the education plan and what does mastery look like in a quality work of the school and in a quality work of the student at 2 and 3. One of the teachers said, I really want to put mastery at 80%, but I know my kids can't get there. Right. And we said, it's okay. We're going to hold the image of 80. We know they're at 30. We can't let logic get in the way. Like, can this child one day get here? Yes or no? She said, yes. I said, then that's all we need to worry about. We're going to take the action step, right? So don't get too carried away on, oh, I'm setting my goals too high. Like, no, that's a bunch of garbage. That's the problem in life. It's not that we set goals too high and miss, it's that we set goals too low and we hit them and we just stay on them, right? So don't let logic get in the way. Don't get carried away with it. Just cast vision. If you thought about it, it is possible, right? And you're going to do that, okay? And then each week you're going to take these action steps to improve these aspects of your wheel. And we talked about this. Ultimately, the goal is just to get 1% better every week. 1% better. Can you commit to getting 1% better every week, everybody? Put a yes in the chat.
Absolutely.
Lauren says she can. All right.
Hey, listen, I think it's funny that you just called me out on that because I actually started in my book on page 24 and 25 and said, this is your time to dream.
Yeah, I love it. That's exactly right. Yeah. And dreaming's fun. And we wrote some pieces. So let's do this. All right. And so, if you want to hop in, everybody has the access to unmute themselves. Right. So you can either raise your hand or say, I want to chat, or you could drop a question in the chat box as well. So, I think just, looking at the first, chapter, there's a part here about how to best utilize the book. It's got a little bit of work that I did with Ron Edmonds and Larry Lazatz in their 7 correlates of effective schools. It'd be really interesting, I think, for you to take a little bit of time in, looking at that work, because this whole like effective schools movement has been around for a long time. This is not new. It's nowhere near something that I created, but those first couple pages, it just talks about what my original 5 characteristics were. what the overall expectations or the correlates of effective schools were. Ron Edmonds' work. But again, how to best utilize this book is just really important. And so I'm going to tell you, my hope is for the next time I see this book in your hands, it's all chewed up and there's like a post-it notes on it and you could barely like see any words, because that's what I want. I want you to use it as a thinking partner. Talk to the book and the book is going to talk to you. All right. All right. So let's do it. Clear and sustained mission and vision, Lauren. I've got some thoughts around this chapter. What is one particular thing, and this is for anybody too. You can put it in the chat box or raise your hand, whatever. What's one part of this clear and sustained mission and vision that got you thinking differently? And if you say the first paragraph, I'll be really excited. No.
I did. That's
Yeah,
what I was gonna say. I said the very first sentence actually is what I underlined. It said, if your charter school disappeared, would anyone miss it? And what I instantly thought about was your legacy. The
Yeah.
mission of your school is like a legacy. And when we do our 21 laws, book study, we say that with your legacy, we write out our life sentence. And with schools, I mean, that's what your mission statement is. It's your school's life sentence.
That's right. Yeah, it really is. And so, hey, one thing I forgot to say, Lauren, and this is for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a charter school leader in this book's good for everybody. It doesn't change, right? So whether you're private school, homeschool, a charter school, district school, we love you. We want you in the study. We want you using the book because it'll line right up. And every school has a mission statement. It's probably harder to find in a school district. Not all of them have them, but to your point, it's the purpose of school. Like, why is this school here? And it's just really fascinating to really think about. I've been in a lot of board meetings. I've heard a lot of seance missions. The organization I'm in charge of right now is like, we got to get, better with our mission. I don't think everybody truly understands. Like we use that mission exercise that's in the book to kick off this year. And I was like, well, what does the word aesthetic mean to everybody? Because that's in our mission. Help me understand. My daughter helped me understand. She said, Dad, we got palm trees on campus and oysters. We're very aesthetic. And I was like, okay, all right. I mean, but it has to resonate with people. I didn't understand it, right? I didn't understand it. So I love that. Yeah. Yeah. I was wondering, right, if your school didn't exist, like would anybody really know? I mean, that's a kind of a punch in the gut question, right? It just asks, did it make a difference? Did it make a difference? And it makes me think, I've done this with a lot of schools, Lauren. We've done that. It's the big picture training, right? And I talk about the Facebook post that was created for my, I guess it was 25-year anniversary or something, high school graduation anniversary. And someone asked in there, hey, what is everybody doing? And, I graduated with over 950 people. And so, but all these incredible careers and members of legislation and authors and doctors. And I was like, oh, I wonder if like the creator of the school, like, is this what they had in mind? Like that, it just kind of made me think. And that's why there's one of the questions in here. What will the social media pages, whatever they look like 25 years from now, what would they say about your school? Like, or if you ran into someone who was at your school 25 years later at like the Piggly Wiggly, like the local food store, like what would they say? Like, did the school made an impact on me? You made an impact on me? The culture that you like, that's what we want to feel, I would imagine, right? So, yeah, I love it. How about anybody else in the audience here? Anybody have like those first couple of pages? Anything just really just resonate with you? Whether it's that first question or that kind of comparison on page 16 when I talk about you can't have a STEM school. You can't say you're a STEM school and not have any STEM. Like it should be illegal. But I remember when I first moved to Raleigh that my daughter was slated to, districted to go to a STEM school. And I asked the neighbors, hey, well, tell me about their STEM programs. They said, what's that? And I kind of explained to them, well, science tech. She said, I don't know. She doesn't talk about it much. Okay. Doesn't sound very STEMmy to me, right? So you would know. You would know for sure.
Hey, Tom, it's Jennifer.
Hey, Jennifer, how are you?
I'm doing well. I remember I went on an accreditation visit probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and with Cognia or Advanced Ed at the time. And this school's mission literally had everything in there: classical, core knowledge, STEM. I mean, it's like technology. I mean, it was like
Yeah.
everything you could think of was written in that mission statement. And I remember looking around my other team members and saying, what how can they be everything? They're not focused.
Yeah, maybe that should have been their mission. We're going to be everything to everybody. And we all know how that goes, everybody, right? When you try to be everything to everybody. It's such a valid point. Right? When you confuse people, you lose people. I mean, like how could you be all those things? And what does this look like? And STEM and classical, I mean, it's fascinating, to even think about. And that's why we put this short assessment in the book. It's on page 20, right, Lauren? It's
Yes.
and we'll practice it. I'm going to pull that up here in a second. We can take a look at it. But is it short? Does everybody know it? Can you train around it? Does it define you? Is it taking you in the right direction? And I'll be very honest, everybody. So the first thing prior to doing any mission-based activity, I would really learn as much as you can about where the mission came from. Read the original charter, if you have one, because the last thing you want to do is hurt anybody's feelings, because someone put a lot of time and effort into it. And what I find, Jennifer, Lauren and I find, like, because we help write charter applications. I mean, sometimes people just can't decide and they can't make it short, and they want all those things. I'm like, it's too long, right? It's too long. It's not memorable. It's not like these ones that are on page 18 that are very clear and they tell you exactly what they're going to do, or the school ones on page 19. I mean, when I read Sugar Creek Charter Schools to eradicate generational poverty, like, I don't need any more than that. Like, I'm in. Just show me where to sign up, for that. Charlotte Lab School to rethink schooling for the 21st century. I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued. What does this look like? Now, I hope we have walked the halls of Charlotte Lab, so I know this isn't true, but I would hate to walk in and see it like the school I was in charge of, a very classical Rose approach, right? Where it was direct instruction. I would imagine this is a school without walls almost. It's just constantly innovative, and like maybe kids are teaching and it's got flipped classrooms in that class. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It just intrigues me. So I think it's important that your mission is clear, it's inspiring, and it meets all these pieces on page 20. Anything you would add there, Lauren?
The other section that really popped out to me when I was rereading this chapter was that whole decision making piece. And I think that's kind of what you guys were just touching on, when you're like, you can't be everything to all. And when you confuse people, you lose people. And I think just keeping in mind that every decision should be filtered through your mission, it helps you keep that clarity.
Yeah, it really does. And it's super hard, right? Because if it's not kind of ingrained in everything you do, or if you're new to the organization and you're not even sure, like, you have to be able to ask questions. You have to be able to say, okay, well, hey, that sounds like a good idea. Tell me where it fits in our mission. Like, where does it line up? Maybe it's a good idea for later, but maybe not, for now, whatever that may be. It is important to treat your mission as your purpose, as your sun, right? Everything that filters through it, as Lauren said. Yeah, I love it. So make sure you take the assessment on page 20, especially that last one. Have you revisited it in the last 3 years? Have you taken the time? And really, it should be at the forefront at minimum at the start of every school year, right? And you can have it during your parent orientations. You can talk about it during your board meetings. You should definitely have it as part of your your recruiting and your hiring process for your school. And what I would love, you know, to see if you're out there, right, and you're listening live here, or is to take a picture of your mission and, you know, share it on social media and, you know, tag us in it, because I'm trying to collect a big list of just, you know, visuals of what other schools are doing, so then we can get a good example of like, well, how are people demonstrating it, you know, as a symbol, or how is it, you know, written on the walls? Like a lot of times I see it just kind of like in plastic on the walls, and it's safe, and it's not always easy to read. You know, sometimes it's too small. So you just really, you know, really want to think about that, right? Is anybody taking the time? And we've got 3 campuses here. So I just realized, I think our mission and vision is only on the walls of one of the 3 campuses. So we've started to work. That's why we've got our core values up here behind us. So every classroom right now, grades 5 through 10, and we just sent ours to the college up there today. So we're really working to try to spread these very key words and principles around your organization. So would love to hear from the folks who are here with us. Of those 8 questions, I'm gonna pull them up here. I thought I had them. Those 8 questions that are in there on page 20. Which of the questions was a no for you? Which questions was a no for you on page 20? About being short, everyone know it, train around it, does it define you?
This morning I had my admin group together. We meet every Monday.
Mhm.
And I had already read the chapter, and so I went through some of this with them. And when we were answering those questions, the one, does everyone know it? We're a fairly new school, so we said no to that one. All the rest were yeses. So one of the things I had started doing a few weeks back was at every staff meeting, I have a teacher stand up before we start the staff meeting to read our mission and vision. So I had already started doing that previous to reading this. But that's something that I think we need to focus more on, is making sure that everybody knows our mission and vision.
Yeah. And maybe even think about, what did you do this week that lines up, you know, your mission, or what's something in the room that, you know, like anchors you to our mission and vision. Like I love, I've got it all, you know, I've got these 4 wristbands on. One's for our, you know, clients, one's for my school, one's for my family, and one's for our company. But they're all anchors of reminders of like my mission and my purpose. So every time I see them, right, you know, so what could you have at your school that really is a symbol, and just really represents? Go ahead, Lauren. I saw you were going to unmute. Oh, so I've got the screens up here. So does everyone know it? That's a big one. Is it short? You know, Jennifer already talked about that. And you can go and download this at 10indicators.com. You get the book, and you can put your information in, and you can download our actual mission improvement exercise, which I really, you know, enjoy doing it. We've done it with lots of schools, and I know that the staff enjoy it, right? Because we asked them, hey, which of these words resonates with you? Which of these words do you want to know more about? We do the same thing for vision. So if you bought the book, you should have access to that. In fact, here's what we'll do, Lauren. I've actually got them all up here. I'm going to make sure everybody in here has our bonus templates right here in the chat. So we'll do that. I'll drop this link in.
Tom, it's not a question in one of those 8, but one that I was thinking about reframing is can you train around it, but do you train around
Oh,
it?
yeah. That's right.
Because
yeah.
when I was reading them, I'm like, at my school, you know, you could train around it, but did we train around it?
Yeah, that's a great point, right? That kind of goes back to the I know, right? But how well do you do it? All right. Well, listen,
Right.
we're gonna have to edit that, because I already found an edit. We got to find and reprint all these books and send them back to people. I already found a mistake in pieces. Where is it? Is it short? Oh, can you train? Do you? Right? Do you? Yeah. And I almost think like the can you train around it was maybe to like Jennifer's point, when it had everything in it, right? Can you actually train anybody around all these pieces? But I love it. Do you train around it? Can you train around it? Okay, perfect. Okay, good. So let's talk about vision. I love it. Man, and actually going back to mission, Lauren, this is it not when we hire principals and help schools hire teachers, don't we use like the mission as part of like that first like question, right? It's what excites you about this mission. Like we really want to know that the people take the time. So that's another way. It should be part of your hiring process for sure. Yeah. All right, so here we go. Vision. I think vision is critically important because without vision, people perish. No one knows what's going on. As I communicated in this really fun story coming out of COVID, when I hadn't met the staff, I didn't know anybody. I was in Zoom, and here we go. We get the, yeah, what the F are we doing? Right, but that person was right. I mean, I was like, I didn't cast vision for the future. So it's such an important skill. And I know, we tend to think in pictures. Most people think in pictures. And what happens is we're so busy and we're so engaged in all the stuff that we don't always have like an open mind or a clear mind or the time to strategically think. So it's really important that you take the time you just 5 minutes a day, even quiet space, quiet time, and really think about how can I take my school from here to there? What would that look like? Like what if all my students were happy and my teachers were highly trained and my parents were engaged and they were volunteering and they weren't emailing me every day all their complaints and they just followed all the rules in Carline, like what would that look like? You're just casting vision for that. It's such an important piece because without vision you don't have a destination. So you're just kind of wandering aimlessly, right? And that way every decision technically is the right decision because you're not really sure where you're going. So you got to know where you're going, you got to know where you're going. So on page 24, what your vision does is it helps you set your long-term goals, right? And the question we ask at board meetings, everybody, this is a freebie. What will the parents see? What will the parents and staff and students see, feel, and experience March 4th, 2027, right? It's just an easy way to cast vision for the future. And then from your long-term goals, you set your annual goals. And from your annual goals, you set your quarterly goals. And then you got your weekly benchmarks and your daily actions. Like it helps you drive every single thing that you do, right? It connect those daily dots and it keeps away from the side visions and it creates accountability, as Lauren said earlier. It's like, oh, it's Mandarin Chinese it's fascinating. Tell me how it's going to help us get to our end result. Okay, well then let's just put it in the parking lot. Maybe we add a foreign language next year, but it's not part of our current plans. Right? So we wrote some examples of visions that we've helped schools write. We have a vision casting process that's based upon having all this current reality and really helping the teams just think forward, right? And remember, a key part of this is not to allow logic to get in the way, because when logic gets in the way, then you're gonna honestly do what you've always done. And when you do what you've always done, Lauren, you know what happens? You get what you always got. nothing.
Yep,
nothing
you get
changed.
those same results.
Same results over and over and over again. So you don't need to know how to do any of it. It's not critically important. The only thing that's going to be important is what's maybe the next step. And you can ask a next step through, like a program like our Inner Circle or one of your partners, or you bring your team together, or you ask leaders that are more successful than you, or you just say, hey, can I just come visit your school and walk around a little bit? Because I got to clear my head and think, differently. You don't have to have the entire 20-step process laid out. You just want to be able to know the next step. And I believe that, vision is more important than your strategy, because, what's going to happen is that, you want to marry the mission and the vision, but you're going to date that plan. That plan's going to change. If the plan works the first time, then you didn't set your sights high enough. Okay. So don't get worried about the strategy. Get more focused on what would a successful a result called. And we're calling it victory, right, Lauren? Isn't that the term we're going to use? What would victory look like, right? So here's some examples. We're recognized as the most desired organization to work for in our county. I mean, I like that. I want every great teacher to work at our school. I'm fired up that we haven't had people apply. I'm going to start knocking on doors soon. Say, what are you doing? Are you not checking out our website? Let's go, right? Or you know, maybe it's we have certified teachers in every classroom, because I know there's principals who, you know, desire that, and that's what they want, right? So that helps me set an end vision, and then I, you know, my current reality is 70%. Okay, what is the action steps to help them get there? Lauren, what around vision do you want to bring into the conversation? I'm going to start wrapping us up because we just got a minute or two here, but I had maybe two more things I wanted to share, but I wanted to make sure you had some good insight here.
No, I think my final thought around it is that for me personally, and maybe some others on the call, that as Tom has already kind of mentioned, vision can be hard for me, and maybe it's hard for you too. And that you have constantly pushed me to just take the next step. Don't let the logic, as you say, get in the way.
Yeah.
And so it can be something that you have to constantly work on when you you know, but you're always worried about it. But how are we going to get there? How are we going to get there? Because I'm a task-oriented person.
Yeah.
I like to have a clear plan. And so yeah, it's just a good reminder. And rereading this chapter was a good, that's why I started in my book and said, this is when you just dream.
Yeah. Well, you know, well, thank you for that. And it is important. And you know, I know you dream big for your little girls.
Oh yeah.
And you've got big dreams, you know, financially, right? That's
Yeah.
our vision. So
Yeah.
really, if you feel like you're having, and this is not for Lauren, this is for everybody, but if
Yeah.
you're having a hard time casting vision for what you want at the school, think about, well, when have I casted vision for what I wanted, you know, before, right? I mean, Seth Godin is really famous. He spoke at a John Maxwell conference. He said something in fact like, why do people spend like 3 months planning their vacation? Why don't they just take the time to plan a life that they don't need a vacation from, right? And I was like, oh man, like that's it's so
Wow. That's powerful.
yeah, right. So do the same thing for your workplace. Like be very intentional about spending time about what success should look like here. And you got to be relentless. You walk down the hallway and something's out of place, you got to question it. You got to root that out. Because if you accept it, then now you're not fighting for what you want. You're not fighting for what you want. And you know what, people will reject a great idea to stay comfortable. You got to be wary of that, right? They're more likely to accept it's too hard than go for it. And I'm telling you, if you shoot for the stars, okay, so you hit the moon. There's no problem there. I don't know what's on the moon, probably not much, but yeah, so that's important. So these last couple of pages of you know, vision here, like on page 26, there's some great vision building activities, and I don't want to give them all away, Lauren, because people got to buy the book. But we talked about the journaling 10 consecutive days. I love, and we talked about visioning high performing schools. So I guess you know, I guess we did give them all away. But the other one, you know, following a group of students around. You know, be a guest at your school, be part of the, have the ambassadors tour you, right? Or just hang out with a cohort for the day. Like, you're going to get a good idea of what's not working at its best. The kids will tell you. They'll be the first ones to tell you what's not good, right? So I wanted to, so this, I love this Mario Andretti quote again. Hopefully everybody appreciated this. I think this is when I used to get Success Magazine. I don't even if they still make it, but it's so great. But it was just this really great story about Andretti. And if you don't know him, he was a Formula One driver, and they're like driving 200 and something miles an hour in those little tiny cars that are like super light. And they asked him, like, how do you drive that fast around those turns and not hit the wall? He just looked, he said, that's easy. I don't look at the wall. Now I think about that every time I drive, right? Because when I tend to drive, this is a terrible thing. Don't drive towards me, because I tend to look at the lights, right? I don't know why, but I tend to look at the lights. I don't know if anybody else does it, but that's bad. Don't do that, right? But that's not where you want to go. You want to keep your eyes directly on the path. And so when you create a vision forward, that's what you want. You want a clear path, and you can formulate a vision in your head of what you want. The mind does not know the difference between reality and make believe. It doesn't know. So just do it. Always have that vision in your head. Everything in front of us was created twice, once in someone's mind and once in the physical form. Everything, the phone, the computer, the Zoom, the book, the walkie-talkies, everything was created twice. And you have that ability too as a person. And so it will take two things. It's going to take mind over matter, because it is a growth point, and Lauren and I are really excited about the next program we're going to launch, our Skinny Strategic Plan Made Simple program, because we're going to talk a lot about mindset, and mindset is critically important. You got to have a growth mindset. You got to be really working on yourself. But what we want to encourage you to do is to turn mind into matter. That means actually manifesting things to be true, and you can do it. You can do it. So the last couple of pages here, right? How to write your vision. There's a whole process here. There's the answer to the mission questions. I wonder how many people got all of them right, Lauren. Did you get them all right the first time?
No.
Hopefully everybody got the last one right. To be the difference making in leadership development of individuals and organizations. I snuck that one in there. But I'm super curious, because I wanted to share, Lauren, I was pulling up. We've had 487 people have taken the assessment now. I just saw this. And I wanted to share, the score. So I'm super curious about everybody. Like what standard was one you said yes to versus one that you didn't. I'm going to hide these floating things. I'm going to get all this stuff out of the way. So 83% of people agree to the first one, that their mission is inspiring and easy to understand. 67% said that it's documented and communicated clearly. And the lowest of the three scores is that it's the driving points around all decision making, right? So that was 66%. So there is some work to do. There's work to do around communicating it and making sure it's part of your decision-making process. So if you haven't done so yet, because I also scored 2 out of 3. If you haven't done so yet, what you want to do is you want to either in your book, right? In your book, or if you downloaded the wheel and you printed it here, is to score your indicator. Okay. So you got 1 out of 3, 0 out of 3, 3 out of 3, whatever it may be. That's now you're starting your here to there journey of success here, of victory, your path towards victory. All right, cool. So we got any questions in the chat, or anybody have any follow-ups? Well, if you go to the very last page of the book, it's my favorite quote. And I'm gonna spoil this for everybody, because a lot of people grab books, Lauren, and they read the last page first. Do you know that? Like when they read. But anyway, Rudy Swafford, who is an incredible school leader. He's now at Summerfield Charter, but at the time he was at Greensboro, and he was the head. He's been the principal of 2 charter schools that have been honor schools of excellence school. I only know a couple people that have done that, but that's like 5 years in a row of an A. And they don't really do it anymore. But he said, when I asked him in 2009, I met Rudy, and I said, hey, what would be your message to all future charter school leaders? And he said, make sure you define and stay true to your program from day one. Make sure you do that so you bring in the students you want, the students you need, or the students who need you. Deliver on what you promise, whatever it is, right? And right there is mission and vision. All right, love you all. Lauren, thanks for hanging out with me at night. It's way past our time. I've been up forever. But we will be back on next Monday. You can catch the replays if you want to share with your team. It'll be on our podcast and our YouTube. Take a look at the reading schedule, everybody. I did change.
Just pulling that up.
Yeah, I did change. We're gonna move indicator 6 to the last week because that's about parents, and we're gonna do parents and board on the same night. We may need to schedule 3 hours for that one. I don't know. But so I moved indicators 7, 8, and 9 all into the same night, and this is subject to change. And I haven't added in my other. I'm gonna do 2 live group kind of, coaching sessions too. So make sure you've got it. We've added in all of the videos that accompany it. That was Lauren and I's 10-day challenge, and just some action steps that you can try to keep true to on a weekly basis, right? So be sure you get with your team this week. Have your team take the assessment if they haven't done it electronically yet. They can have them print out their scores. You guys get your maps together and just start, looking at this. But most importantly, start walking around your hallway. Say, hey, what are evidence of the mission and vision that I see? And what would I like to see, right? And start taking those action steps. All right, Lauren, great job tonight. Thanks, everybody, for hanging in there. We will be back on next Monday. And if you're in the inner circle this week, this is what we want to hear. We want to hear your first steps in the with the Wheel of Success and the book. Good night, everybody.